20 miles off the rugged Scottish coast, an isolated lighthouse stands as a silent sentinel against the unforgiving North Atlantic. It is a place where 3 experienced keepers vanished without a trace, leaving behind an uneaten meal and a chilling logbook entry that would baffle the world for over a century. This is the enduring mystery of Flannan Isle, a maritime enigma that continues to puzzle historians and captivate storytellers, a true echo of humanity's great unresolved past. Welcome to Echoes of Time, your portal to the forgotten pages of history, where we delve into the secrets that lie under the dust of centuries. Today, we journey to Eilean Mòr, one of the remote Flannan Isles, to explore one of the most baffling disappearances in nautical history. The year was 1900, a time when the vast, untamed ocean still held many secrets, and the men who tended its lighthouses were stalwarts against its formidable power. The Flannan Isles lighthouse, a beacon of hope for mariners navigating treacherous waters, was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. But on a fateful day in late December, that beacon seemed to swallow its guardians whole. The relief vessel, named Hesperus, was scheduled to arrive at Eilean Mòr on December 20th, bringing fresh supplies and a change of personnel. However, due to severe storms, its departure from Oban was delayed. It wasn't until December 26, 1900, a full 6 days later, that the Hesperus finally reached the Flannan Isles. As the ship approached Eilean Mòr, a sense of unease began to settle over the crew. The lighthouse, a towering structure designed to pierce the darkest nights, was dark, eerily silent. No flag flew from the mast, and no welcoming committee stood ready to greet the arriving vessel. The expected signals went unanswered, the usual bustling activity completely absent. Joseph Moore, the lighthouse tender who was to be the replacement keeper, was the first to set foot on the desolate isle. The silence that greeted him was profound, unsettling. He climbed the steep steps to the lighthouse, his boots echoing unnaturally in the stillness. What he discovered inside would cement the Flannan Isle mystery as an indelible part of maritime lore. The main door of the lighthouse was found unlocked, a detail that immediately struck Moore as odd. Lighthouse keepers, by the very nature of their isolated and critical duties, were meticulous about security. This was not merely a matter of personal safety, but of protecting the vital machinery that guided ships through the perilous waters. Moore proceeded to systematically search the lighthouse, each step deepening the pervasive sense of dread. In the living quarters, beds were unmade, suggesting that the keepers had left abruptly, perhaps in haste or under duress. But it was the kitchen that presented the most unsettling tableau. An uneaten meal lay cold on the table, a stark testament to a sudden interruption, a moment frozen in time. An upturned chair lay on the floor, adding to the unsettling picture of disarray. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, no ransacked cabinets, just an unnerving stillness, a domestic scene abandoned mid-activity. The 3 keepers assigned to Flannan Isle were Principal Keeper James Ducat, Second Assistant Thomas Marshall, and Occasional Keeper Donald Macarthur. Experienced, reliable men, each intimately familiar with the demands and dangers of their isolated profession. Their absence was not just a puzzle, it was an impossibility in the routine-driven world of lighthouse keeping. Where could 3 such men simply disappear without a trace from a small, isolated rock? The alarm was raised, and an exhaustive search was immediately launched, led by Robert Muirhead, the superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board. Muirhead was a seasoned professional, intimately familiar with the operational procedures and the men who maintained these lonely outposts. He scoured every inch of Eilean Mòr, examining the landing stages, the rugged cliffs, the nooks and crannies of the remote isle. Yet, despite his meticulous efforts and the thorough search conducted by his team, no bodies were ever found. Not a single definitive clue to their fate emerged from the harsh landscape or the turbulent waters surrounding the island. It was as if the keepers had simply dissolved into the air, leaving behind only questions and an impenetrable silence. As Muirhead delved deeper into the baffling incident, one piece of evidence stood out, deepening the mystery rather than shedding light upon it: the lighthouse logbook. The last entry was dated December 15th. In it, Principal Keeper James Ducat spoke of severe storms, winds of unprecedented ferocity lashing the island, and the keepers wrestling with the elements. Such conditions, if true, might offer a plausible explanation for an accident. However, official records of weather conditions in the days preceding the disappearance told a different story. They indicated calm weather. This stark discrepancy between the personal account of extreme weather in the logbook and the official meteorological records created a perplexing paradox. If the weather was calm, why did Ducat record a severe storm? And if it truly was calm, what then could explain the sudden, complete disappearance of 3 men from a well-maintained, isolated structure? This contradiction was not just a detail, it was a gaping hole in any straightforward explanation, pushing the Flannan Isle case firmly into the realm of the inexplicable. The disappearance of the Flannan Isle keepers quickly became a subject of intense speculation and theorizing, each proposed explanation vying to fill the chilling void left by the men's absence. One of the most common, and perhaps most plausible theories, suggests a tragic accident, a sudden, powerful event that swept all 3 men into the unforgiving North Atlantic. It is hypothesized that a rogue wave, a monstrous wall of water appearing seemingly out of nowhere, could have struck the island while the men were outside, perhaps attempting to secure equipment during a storm. The western landing platform on Eilean Mòr was indeed exposed to the full fury of the Atlantic, and such a wave could easily have engulfed the men, dragging them into the depths before they had a chance to react or raise an alarm. The discovery of damage to iron railings on the landing platform and some washed-away equipment lent credence to this theory. However, the presence of 3 men together, all swept away at once, remained a point of contention. Lighthouse duties were often solitary, and it was unusual for all 3 keepers to be outside simultaneously, especially during perilous conditions. Yet, as often happens with such profound mysteries, the human mind instinctively searches for more sinister possibilities. Could a violent quarrel among the isolated keepers have escalated into something far more tragic? The confined and monotonous existence on a remote lighthouse could, theoretically, fray nerves and exacerbate tensions. A dispute, perhaps over duties, personality clashes, or even something seemingly trivial, might have spiraled out of control, leading to a deadly confrontation and murder. One keeper might have attacked another, and then, in a desperate attempt to cover his tracks, disposed of the bodies and perhaps even himself, or fled the island by some unknown means. The uneaten meal and unmade beds could, in this context, be interpreted as a scene violently interrupted. The unlocked door could signify a hasty departure or a lack of concern for security after a catastrophic internal event. However, there was no evidence of blood, no signs of a struggle beyond the overturned chair, nothing to concretely support such a grim scenario, leaving it as a chilling yet unsubstantiated conjecture. Another theory, born from the psychological strain of isolation, posits that the men made a pact to flee their duties. Lighthouse keeping was a demanding, lonely profession, and the relentless solitude could take a severe toll on the human psyche. Perhaps, driven to their breaking point by the desolate conditions and the unending demands, the 3 men conspired to abandon their posts, making their escape on a passing vessel or by some other clandestine means. While such a desertion would be a grave dereliction of duty, the allure of freedom from their self-imposed prison might have been irresistible. However, the logistics of such an escape from a remote island, especially with no signs of a boat or external assistance, make this theory highly improbable. Furthermore, experienced keepers like Ducat, Marshall, and Macarthur were not known for such irresponsibility. Their professionalism was their lifeblood. But what if the explanation lay beyond the mundane, venturing into the realm of the truly inexplicable? The Flannan Isles, like many remote Scottish landmasses, are steeped in ancient folklore and whispers of the supernatural. Could the desolate isle have been home to malevolent forces indigenous to the place itself? Tales of mythical creatures, ancient spirits, and spectral entities have long permeated Scottish folklore. Stories whispered by fishermen and passed down through generations. Could these forces have manifested, drawn the keepers to their doom, or simply spirited them away? This theory, while lacking any empirical basis, taps into humanity's primal fear of the unknown, of powers beyond our comprehension. The eerie silence, the absence of bodies, and the seemingly inexplicable nature of the disappearance lend themselves to such fantastical interpretations, transforming the maritime tragedy into a maritime ghost story, a chilling testament to the island's ancient, mysterious past. For a channel like Echoes of Time, these legends represent the forgotten pages, the whispers of history that refuse to be silenced. The sheer isolation of Eilean Mòr and the psychological strain it could impose also led to theories of madness. Could the relentless solitude, the unending roar of the sea, the constant vigil, have driven one or all of the keepers to a mental breaking point? Perhaps one succumbed to a fit of paranoia or delusion, attacking the others, or leading them to their deaths in a moment of irrationality. The overturned chair, the uneaten meal, the sudden abandonment of duties, these details could be reinterpreted through the lens of a mind unhinged. Such an event could explain the lack of a coherent narrative or physical evidence, as the perpetrator might have subsequently vanished, or, tragically, succumbed to the elements themselves. However, attributing such an extreme psychological breakdown without any prior indication or warning signs remains speculative, highlighting the desperate lengths to which human inquiry goes when faced with an impenetrable void of information. As Echoes of Time delves into these historical explorations, we are left to grapple with the profound implications of this particular mystery. The Flannan Isle case remains one of history's most compelling unsolved cases, a stark and chilling testament to the raw, untamed power of the sea and the fragile nature of human existence in the face of such forces. It underscores how quickly life can be extinguished, how easily evidence can be erased by the relentless march of nature, leaving behind only echoes of what once was. The dedicated investigation by Robert Muirhead, the puzzling logbook entry, the seemingly abandoned domestic scene, all these elements form a tapestry of unanswered questions, weaving together a narrative that continues to captivate. What truly happened on that remote island lighthouse on December 15, 1900, or in the days that followed? Was it a colossal wave, a sudden accident, an internal conflict, a flight from duty, or something far more inexplicable? Something that taps into the ancient secrets and forgotten history of the isle itself. The truth, it seems, remains guarded by the swirling mists and the crashing waves of the North Atlantic. The vanished lighthouse keepers of Flannan Isle stand as eternal figures in the annals of maritime history, their fate a permanent question mark, an enduring echo of humanity's ceaseless quest to understand the unknown. In the vast expanse of time, some stories simply refuse to be fully told, leaving us to wonder, to theorize, and to imagine the truth behind their maritime ghost stories. What do you believe truly transpired on Flannan Isle?